to you. Today is Friday, 15th of May 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. So this week we've walked through the model that we have in front of us, the whole quadrants of the advisory board operating system. On Monday we talk about scale, how to scale a company, what are the elements that you need or to consider with an advisory board to scale a company. On Tuesday we talk about predictability. Wednesday we talk about systems, particularly with resilience. And yesterday we talked about edge, right? So the transformation, the innovation, what makes your company relevant in the next 2, 5, 6 years. And today is how the whole advisory operating system works in practice. And here's why, because the mistake is to treat this as separate board conversations. And if you remember, I always mention that many times boards or executives and founders look at a business as a linear in-time process that goes from usually from the catching the next fire to the next fire to the next fire, or putting down the next fire, or we are going to cross that bridge when we get there, right? But what happened is that these fires and these bridges actually are the genesis of those are starting right now, right here, because all these things that we see in the model here are happening right now, right here. So it's not a thing that is linear in time. It's something that is an ecosystem that when it fails in one area, it starts to create a problem for the next event that will happen in the future. So if you tackle these, or you start to tackle all these things as a matter of operating system that is reporting itself where it hurts, if you may, that helps the organization to be more agile and more responsive rather than reactive. Yeah, when you have reaction, you have to do things because something is coming out of the blue, as you said. But if you're responsive, you already have a better view, a better visibility of what's going on, or at least you're best prepared, and that help you to be more resourceful when the events happen. Now, revenue is this is because also when we said about the different conversations is because the revenue is treated as one conversation, the capital is treated as a different conversation, risk usually is like yes, we have our risk management process or systems that actually are rarely reviewed, and transformation innovation seems to be like a 300 projects all set at once by different departments disconnected to each other. Why or how the organization works together towards a single goal. And if you remember, the example I provided yesterday was when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, in '97. The first thing that he did was to discontinue 75% of their production line, because he thought actually fighting feature by feature, name by name, or device by device at the time with the competitors was literally a lot of friction, investment, and pretty much was going nowhere with the organization. Anyway, so this is what where the businesses enters in what is called a drift, because literally they start to go to the market and they start to look what the competition are doing, and they do these wonderful comparison tables of the competition, and at the end what you have is a table that have a different things in different places that are different than the other, but the core is pretty much the same, right? So you don't see a much difference anywhere. And here's the interesting thing. The Business Development Bank of Canada study gives us the headline lesson today. Advisory boards work when they bring independent challenge, complementary expertise, and decision support into regular rhythm. So, but guess what? The study also found that 80% of leaders with advisory boards say they would set up another advisory board again if they needed. So what that is the study saying? It's saying that actually you are looking into a cognitive diversity upon the challenges that you have in front of you or the milestone of your organization. And that's why I assemble not only an advisory board, but an international advisory board around the milestones in front of your company. And this is supported by stories. It's not something actually I came up and say, oh, this is a great idea. No, it clearly shows results. There's a faster than hiring one executive. This is not a big consulting overhead. You don't have a talent locked in, and the membership is reviewed and changed every 6 months. So the company keeps the right expertise for the next phase of the organization. That is the operating system, not a permanent talking shop, but a rotating capability layer that can increase your company's revenues by 24% and productivity by 18%. And this is supported by studies by institutions that are very respectable, which is, in this case, a Business Development Bank of Canada. Now, let's see three problems that they found. The first problem is a board drift, as I mentioned. So growth, capital controls, and transformations are reviewed separately. So the teams misses the cause and effect of why the things are not happening. The second problem that they found, and actually that now is a regulation in UK, which is the Financial Reporting Council, the provision 29 that came into effect this year, asked for declaration of effectiveness of material internal controls. What that means? That means that boards or the teams and the founder needs evidence of what they do, how they do it, and how effective they are. That is not optimism anymore. It's not a good sales pitch. You have to show results in a way that are effective, in a way, and particularly if you're changing things, how these changes are effectively going to be shown as giving results or providing results. And the third problem is linked to this effectiveness. Investors are getting more selective. And this is coming from the PwC report or survey that says that investors are prioritizing real transformation, credible value, and resilience. And this is direct challenge the teams, executive team, and the founders with weak execution stories. You might come to an investor, to a financial institution, or to your shareholders and say, we are looking for funding, or we are raising capital for X, Y, Z, and they are going to start to look in these things. So is your transformation something that is real, is happening, how you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and is a credible value creation, right? And obviously resilience. And when we speak about resilience, we spoke about resilience on Wednesday, by the way, and just a refresher, there are core portions or 4 elements for resilience or components. This is financial stability, how sustainable is the growth, how the operation is going to respond to unpredictability, and cybersecurity. So you have these 3 or 4 legs of resilience, and then you have to be very, very careful how you present this to investors, because they aren't going to say, how are you resilient? They are going to look into these 4 things, right? So if you answer, yes, we are a resilient company because X, Y, Z, make sure that you tap into these 4 legs and explain very well and provide evidence of that financial stability, sustainable growth, operational responses, and cybersecurity. Now, in other words, imagine that an advisory board or the system of an advisory board is a gearbox. So you have all the power, you have the infrastructure, you have the capacity, but when you want to put that power on the road, you need the gears to synchronize correctly. So that's what the advisory board does. Synchronize those gears, those efforts, those capacities, those infrastructures to connect cleanly to the power, to the road, so you can have that speed, that torque, that sustained run that you're looking for. So what happens when the board has strong people, but not joined up yet? It doesn't synchronize yet that operating rhythm. So here's where you get stuck. You get stuck because you chase expertise in one role at a time, right? So it's a long period to recruit these people. It's a very, very exhausting exercise to find the right profile. Probably you're setting up the profile incorrectly when you're asking which is a profile of the candidate that we are looking for. And if you don't have very, very, very clear what you're doing or what you want to achieve, that exercise itself already sets you for failure. Unfortunately, I have to say this, because if you have the job description and the expertise they are looking for not correctly and very well and cleanly established in your candidate's requirements, you're going to hunt for something that actually is not what is going to help you. You are hunting for somebody that perhaps is very good in what he has or she has done, but not the right profile for your organization. So again, the Business Development Bank of Canada study shows that advisory boards usually bring a mix of skills, right? So you're not stuck with one profile. You have a mix of skills for accounting and finance, or sales and marketing, so human resources, industry experts, operational competencies. So imagine that you're looking for this glorified person that have all those skills, and you will find them, like, but be patient, because it will take a long time and it's going to be very expensive. But an advisory board, actually, you can put all these talents in in one room in 3 weeks or less, and they're going to perform or outperform one single talent, because they are a team. They have a cognitive diversity. They think in different ways. They see the problem in different angles and provide solutions that you never imagined before. So the value sits in the mix. It doesn't sit in the big champion talent. You get stuck to, because the macro drop gives less room for waste. Here's a fancy wording to say productivity went down. And these are studies that are done by the Office of National Statistics in the UK, that they've been studying how productivities of people are coming into place in the businesses. And unfortunately, productivity is going down. But guess what? It's not because the people are not better skilled or better educated or better experienced. Is because the company itself is complex, and you have complexity that doesn't require that complexity. So people start to get kind of a pigeon box in places where they shouldn't be, and that is where the productivity start to drop. And why is that happening? Because your next milestone, your next challenges, your next objectives are pretty much reactive, are not responsive. And this is a big thing that you have to start to differentiate in your organization. And the third thing that you get stuck is because technology, particularly cyber and governance, now move together. And this is an interesting report from Gartner, that 80% of non-executive directors believe current board practices and structures are inadequate for oversee AI effectively. This is not a technology note, by the way. This is a board capability warning. And guess what? If this is happening at the large, big organizations, with the skills that they want to hire, the teams that they want to put together, the budgets to spend this money, and the capacity to make those decisions, if they are finding challenges, you go all the way down to companies of 50 employees, 250 employees, etc., and you will find this same challenge, because it's not something that is exclusive for big, large organizations. It's something that actually is cascading to everybody else, because the mistakes that they are doing with the AI project, where guess where they are going in the food chain, as they call it, is going down. It's cascading down to you. It's the same as the regulators when they ask for carbon footprint. You don't have any obligations. You are not regulated. You don't have any requirements to do this. But why you had to create reports about carbon footprint or scope one, two, or three, let's say, for carbon emissions, when you're doing a tender for a new contract or to renew your contract, or when you are pitching for a new business? Why you have to do that? Because it's not your obligation. It's not your requirement. It's a requirement of the other organization. They have to do it. But actually, guess what? Part of their assessment is their supply chain. So you are part of their assessment for them to report back to the authorities, right? So the same with AI. So they do whatever they do with AI. This is absolutely fantastic ideas. But guess what? Who is the receiving end at one point, even if you have nothing to do with that, is yourself. So you have to prepare for these kind of things. So What will change if your advisory board were built around the next value milestone, not around the general advice? Because this is another thing. You don't want an advisory board that is a very good talking, uh, inspiring talking once a month or once a quarter. You want an advisory board that have practical moves, that does what it does at the next stage that you're facing in your or with your organization. So this is what we do with an advisory board and as an operating system. We run a one value creation review. We ask for 4 questions together, right? So it's together. So we are not asking you as an interrogation thing. Is like a how we play this together. What are we scaling? What are we funding? What must stay resilient? And remember, resilience have 4 legs. And where are we building edge? The next stage of the organization, the transformation, the innovation, how we're going to make the organization relevant for the next 3, 4, 5 years. The second thing that we do is to build the advisory boards by milestone, not by people. It's by milestone organization. What talent we need for this particular objective milestone and where we're going. So a capital raise needs one mix of people. A resilience gap needs a different mix of people. A transformation phase needs another set of people, right? So you get the picture. So here's the beauty of this. Every 6 months, when we review the phases where we are in the big project, we can swap members. So to bring other talents that are more relevant or highly relevant to the next stage that you're going through. So you don't have to go through that lengthy exercise I mentioned earlier to try to hire somebody that actually is going to be very difficult and probably very expensive to do. But not just the salaries. I'm talking about the whole process to going through that. So the third thing that we do with an international advisory board implementing this operating system is we forcing the system. And we forcing, we saying we are not doing something violent. Is that the advisory board should make management prepared, expose weak assumptions, and bring external pattern recognitions into the room. So actually you say, oh, now we understand why this is working or why this is not working. This is a pattern recognition because you have now evidence of the things that you're doing or haven't done and how you can swap it and change it for something that's more productive, more effective, and deliver business outcomes. Excellent. So if you are a non-executive director or a part of an executive team or a founder and you want an international advisory board to implement these operating systems around your next growth, capital raise, resilience, or transformation milestones, let's have a call so I can understand where you're coming from, where you are today, and where you're going, so we can put together an advisory board that have all the best capacities, expertise, and experiences and qualifications to bring you to the next level and produce this 24% increase in revenues and 18% increase in productivity. Excellent. Let's pause here today and reconvene next week. Have a great weekend, and